Hey everybody, it's Eugene Lisho and welcome to Click 3D. This is a program where we talk about photogrammetry, laser scanning, hand scanners, and even 3D software. Today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a model of this guy right here. And for all my forensic archaeologists and forensic anthropologists, this is probably going to be an interesting one for you. And photogrammetry is going to be a really great solution in these types of situations, especially like when you're in the field. And let's be honest, archaeologists and anthropologists are not the probably best funded people. Sorry, but that's the reality. So finding and being able to get access to low-cost tools like just a digital camera or your mobile phone or something like that, taking photographs and then being able to process them in photogrammetry software is a really great option. And photogrammetry software, there's many varieties out there. There's everything from free right up to really expensive packages, and even packages that you can pay for monthly. So if you don't want to front the cost right away for a full package, you get a month license. You do what you need to do, and then you don't have to spend all the money for the full thing. So I'm going to talk about my setup here. As you can see, I have a black backdrop, and this is just like felt or fleece kind of thing, and it's black. And the reason it's black is because it is a good contrast to the skull. And there is a tool that you can use inside of 3ds Zephyr and often some other software, which is called masking. And there's automated tools. So it's basically a way of having you remove the background. So I can get rid of all the black and it'll just keep the model or the skull, which is what I need. Now, I also have a turntable. This is just nothing fancy. It's a turntable that you can find on Amazon. I've painted one side black, one side white, depending on the object that I need. I just find this to be useful. And I also have another piece of felt under here just to kind of match the background, because the plastic here can be a little bit shiny sometimes and it has some texture. So I don't want that being caught inside of the I don't want that to be part of the reconstruction. So I want to make sure the masking is going to filter everything out. Now I have this ring light here, and it has a little bit of a red filter. It may be a little hard to see, but it was just on there before and I couldn't be bothered to take it off. But of course, depending on the lighting you have, it's going to affect the color of the model that you're doing. I don't mind if it's a bit red this time, and might be an interesting experiment as well. But useful, I can adjust the brightness on here depending on what I need. And I also have a very sturdy tripod. And the reason is, when you have things like this in your control, what you're going to want to do is make your camera give you the best photos possible, which means that you have to make some adjustments that would make it hard for you to hold the camera steady, if you're just kind of holding it by hand. So you're going to end up with blurring and that sort of thing. So having a tripod like this is very helpful. Now, in terms of the camera settings, I'll go through that in a second, but I also have a scale. And the reason is, if you want to make your model to scale or get it as accurate as possible, you need to throw something like this in, okay? So it has to be captured in the photos. Now, I'm actually going to be quite close to my model, and I can give you just kind of a quick preview here. And you'll see that it kind of fills up the frame, okay? So I don't have a lot of room to put this scale somewhere where I can easily find it. So I may have to back up a bit and get a wider field of view in order to capture this. Now, another solution would be I can put some little markers on the skull if I need to, or I can just scale it afterwards based on a couple of points. I could pick something in the nasal aperture here and then something like at the back, but they have to be very discrete points. I can't just kind of guess, okay? If I want to make it accurate, then I need very, very discrete points. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm also using a remote. This is just the wireless remote that comes with the Nikon camera. And if you're interested, this is the Nikon D7100. It has a 40 millimeter macro lens. Nothing fancy. It's a decent camera. I've been using it for years and I'm really happy with it. But you could do this with a phone. You could do this with a point and shoot camera. There are a lot of options available to you. And of course, if you have a really good camera, high resolution, really great lens, then you're going to end up with some really great results for sure. So let's get into the camera settings, because I think that is actually going to be important. So let me go back here put the live view on, and I don't think you'll be able to see it, but I'll talk you through it anyway. There are three basic things that you need whenever you're doing a project like this, and I'll just go through them step by step. So one of them is going to be the ISO value. Okay, so on my camera, I got to hold down there's a button back here. I hold this down, it highlights the ISO, and if I rotate this over here, okay, it's going to change. So we want a very low ISO, okay, or ISO number. And the reason for that is that you reduce the sensitivity of the sensor. Now, you might say, well, why would you do that? Why would you reduce the sensor? Well, if you make the sensor more sensitive, what ends up happening is you end up introducing noise into your photographs. Okay, so a high ISO number is used in sort of dim conditions, dark, overcast, or even very, very dark conditions like at nighttime. But because we have control of the lighting here, and we can crank the lighting up or down, whatever, we're going to turn it way down low, minimize the noise, and get really, really crisp images. Now, what about the aperture? So the aperture is basically the opening and how much light we're going to be allowing into the lens. So what we're going to do here is we're going to crank this up, okay? And the reason is we want a very small opening. And the reason for that is a high F number, okay, a very small opening, gets you a lot of depth of field. So that means when I'm shooting this on an angle and I've got some parts of the skull that are closer to me and some parts which are farther away, the parts which are farther away or the parts that are really close to me could be out of focus, okay? So they're not in the focus range, so maybe just the middle will be, but not the other one. So in order to maximize that range, I take that F number and I crank it up as much as possible. Now, of course, I've made the sensor less sensitive. I'm telling it not to bring in a lot of light because it just has a very small opening. So that means that I can't just use a very fast shutter speed. I can't hold this by hand and take a shot. It's going to be severely underexposed. So my shutter speed is going to be extended. So it's going to be half a second or a second or whatever. Right now I've got it at about half a second. Okay, so there's really just no way to hold it steady enough at half a second. I'm just going to blur my images. That's why we need the tripod, and that's why we need the remote. Now, one thing I could do is I could blast more light. Okay, and then that would reduce my shutter speed, but I really don't want to do that because what happens is I'll start getting a lot of shine and things like that. So just want a soft, gentle light, a nice diffuse light. What you can do as well is take a side light, or you know, if you don't have a ring light, that's fine. You can use like whatever, any LED light or any light you have, you know, that can help brighten things. Just, you know, put it under a light, go by a window, whatever. But diffuse lighting is really, really great, and so you just have to play with it. I'm not being too picky today. This lighting is good enough, and I think it will do the job for us. And what I'm going to do here is just start from the front, take a picture, rotate, take a picture, rotate, take a picture, rotate. Now, of course, if you take very, very fine increments like this, you're going to have a ton of overlap, but you're also going to have a lot of images. Now, for some people, that doesn't matter. They have a lot of time, you know, throw in 400 or 500 photos and, you know, just let it do its thing. You know, I sort of feel somewhere in between that. You know, I'll take enough photos so I got plenty of overlap. But, you know, I usually go about, you know, 10 degrees or something like that. So for every round that I take, so for every revolution, I'm taking probably 30 photos or something like that. And, you know, that seems to be enough, more or less, for what I need. Sometimes in some areas I may go a little bit finer, and in some areas a little coarser or whatever. And you have to keep in mind all the little details that are here, the undercuts. So if I need to get inside the eyes, I need to move the camera lower and get there, and that's what I will probably end up doing. I'll take one from up here, I'll take one from the front, and then I'll rotate this on its side, another side, and maybe even upside down, and that would give me the sort of a complete set of images. Doing a revolution each time I move it, and ensuring that I have a good black background, ensuring that the skull is in the, you know, filling up the frame. I don't want to be far away. I really want to be close up and get as much detail as possible, and this should do the trick for me. Okay, so I'm just going to set this up a little bit, tweak some things, and then we'll get right to it. Okay, so it looks like we're set up here, and I'm just going to take a shot and see what happens. And let me see what this looks like. So I'm actually gonna like zoom in and see what the heck we got here. Not too bad. Okay, yeah, like in these areas where we're getting the teeth and stuff like that, we're getting like, seems like enough detail. Looks quite crisp, not too bad at all. So I think that'll be enough to do a decent model. So I've taken this shot. Now what I'm gonna do is just rotate a little bit like that, take another shot, and repeat this process. So in terms of the, how much you need to turn, 5 or 10 degrees is usually pretty good. You can definitely go finer if you really wanted to get a crazy model, really, really dense or whatever. But, this is fine. You'll see in the end that this is still going to produce a really, really good model. Coupled with this, you have to remember that I'm going to be turning this on its side. And so I'm actually going to have a ton of overlap between one side and the other side, and with it being upright like this as well. I could even turn it upside down, which I may do depending on how it looks. So let me finish this and then I'll go ahead and then I'll move it. Okay, so I've done one sort of round here, going all the way around in small increments, and I'm shooting a little bit from the top down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the camera here, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to try to shoot this more, straight on. And let me see where I end up here. So that's not too bad. And I'm going to try to get inside those orbits, and let me see what this looks like when I turn it. Sometimes you need to center the object on the turntable, or sometimes you need to move the camera, whatever is easier, but that doesn't look too bad. Okay, and I don't know if you can see this, but I'm getting in pretty close. Okay, so I'm filling the camera's view as much as possible, and it's okay to even cut off a little bit. That's not a problem. Okay, that'll work just fine. But you have to keep in mind that with the bone structure, sometimes there's little bones or up on, like the ones up on the side here. I'm not an anthropologist, so I'm not sure what that bone is called up on the side, but if you want to get inside, you got to photograph it there. Okay, so all these little undercuts and things that are not in view need to be photographed properly. Okay, especially the spaces and such that are between them. So I'm going to do this again, just go through another round, and now that I'm down at this level, and then we'll continue on and do another one from there. So let's go. Okay, so that round is done. I think what I'm going to do now is turn this on its side. So I'm just going to put this down, and I'll reach around. I'm just going to very carefully turn this sideways, and I'll start, so I don't forget, with the face sort of forward, just like that. And I need to see how that looks in the view. Now, at this point, I could actually turn the camera to sort of maximize the view, because what's happening is I have some space I'm seeing at the top and the bottom, which are not being filled. So I'm actually going to try and do that. So I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. Okay, and I may have to drop my tripod down here, or what I could do is move this over and then point this down a bit. Yeah, that's not bad. Actually, that would work, I think. That might work. So let me do that. And I think if I get, yeah, I think this might work. So I'm just going to go up a tiny bit more, like that, and then I'm going to give this a go. So I filled up the view now, so when I rotate around, I don't have a lot of a dead space. A little bit on this side, so I'm just going to tuck this over a tiny bit, like that. And that's not bad. So I always kind of check this beforehand, make sure that it's, kind of the way I want in view and such. So, okay, let's get going. I'm going to do another round, then I'm going to flip it to the other side, and that might be enough, but I could do one that's completely upside down. So maybe I'll start with just this, the other side, and then see what we get. Okay, so I've gone all the way around now, and I shut off the live view because when you have live view on, there's some focusing issues and it just takes longer. So when I shut it off, I'm just taking a quick look at the photos once they're taken because I just want to make sure that it's in focus, but it's going a bit faster. So if you want to do that, shut it off once you're set up, that's no problem. Obviously, I can always come back and take more photos if something happens, but I'm just going to speed this up a bit, and I'm going to flip this over to its other side now. And I'll be a little bit careful here, like this. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I just have to check this again, make sure that it's, yeah, that looks okay, I think. Not bad at all. Good. So I'm going to go the other way now, and let's photograph this. So let's go. Okay, so I've done this side now as well, and just to repeat, I'm not using the scale right now. I could scale this by other means, like I said, by taking measurements. The goal of this is not actually to put a scale in here, but because I'm so close up, this is not a good option for me because it's very difficult to see the scale in the photos. So either you have to put a couple of markers on the skull or have this off to the side, go back a bit and capture the ruler as well. That is an option too. But like I said, in this case, if I just want a relative, kind of close scale, I can just pick a couple of points with some calipers. Now, I think the last one I will do is the upside down. So I'm going to see if I can get this to sit here stable. That's going to be a little trickier than I thought, so I might have to support this some other way. Maybe like this. Okay, actually I think I might have it. Let me just check what it's showing me here on the camera. Now in this case, I'm going to go back this way. I'm going to go rotate this 90 degrees because I want to be able to fill the frame. And I'm going to move this over like that. I might even come back a bit, and I'm going to tilt this up. Yeah. Actually, no, I'm going to come up higher because I want to get the bottom a little bit better. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to point down. There we go. That's good. And let's see what this looks like. Just do a quick test. And go slow. So that side there is a little bit off, so I'm just going to push it over a tiny bit, like that. Kind of split the difference. Okay, I think that's going to work for me. So I'm going to start like this. I'll do another revolution here, and that should do it for me. So let's give it a go. Okay, so I'm back at my computer here, and I've got 3ds Zephyr, and I've transferred the images from the SD card over to the computer. And I'm just inspecting some of the images here, but you can see here, this is one, and it looks pretty good. Now, what's great about this is you'll see the background is nice and black, okay? It's not, there isn't a lot of texture there or something that can get misinterpreted with what's in the foreground, which is the skull. So that's good. I have a good mask here, and if I move around, you'll see, right, that's not too bad at all. So I'm going to work with this in 3ds Zephyr, and I'm just going to walk through the process here. This is the full version of 3ds Zephyr, and what I need to do to start is I need to take all of these images and I need to drag them in here. So I have 128 images, and I'm going to be using masks, so I need to click on this mask images, and I'm going to go ahead and go next. Go next here. Now here it says masking mask not found, and that's because I haven't created any. So there is a really powerful program inside of 3ds Zephyr called Masquerade. So I'm going to launch Masquerade, and this is going to bring up all of the images that I have here, and it's going to allow me to basically subtract the background, okay? Subtract anything that is like black here. So one of the options here says create a mask automatically based on color. Now I can do this manually. So you'll see here it says silhouette. Okay, so what I can do is I can click on this red brush. I can click on what it is that I want to keep and just kind of scribble in this area, not even that much, and then go to the blue, and then I can just kind of highlight what it is that I don't want. And I'm just going around and even outside the parts here like that. And so basically I'm just selecting the black parts. I'm going to let go, and it's going to make the calculation for me. So if I really want to check it with a mask, black and white mask, I'm going to click on this and you'll see that I have a fantastic mask, automated. That's what I like. Okay, that's what I want. Now, this is back up here. Now, if I proceed to the next, it'll actually save and yeah, it'll have a little M beside here, but I'm not going to do that. I want to do this even more automatically, and that's by selecting color. So there's this button down here. It says create a mask automatically. I'm going to click on this and it says, okay, there's a threshold and like some kind of an iteration. So I'm just going to go pick and I'm going to say, you know what, just pick this right here, this color, and I can apply to all. So I'm going to roll the dice here and I'm going to go apply to all, and it says, do you want to compute the masks for all 128 images? And I'm like, hey, you know what? Why not? Go for it and see what happens. Now I can see here, this is getting a little bit dark, so it may have cut off some of this stuff here. But it's going to be working in the background to do all of this stuff. And what I'll do is I'll come back and you'll see here, it starts to populate these with M's. And oh, let me drag this in as well. Okay, so maybe you'll be able to see this. So this is my folder here. Let me see if I can bring it in. And it's writing these BIM files. Okay, so these are the mask files that get associated with each of the images. So for example, 6775 has SKL675 JPEG.BIM. So that is the resultant masking file that goes with this thing. So I'll just give this a second. It's almost done. Actually, you can see how quick this is. And then we'll come back and we'll have a look. So just a few more here. And then I'll probably go through a few of them, make sure that they are okay, that, you know, it's not taking a lot of the parts that I need or want and masking those as well. And I can adjust the color, I can adjust the threshold, and that will help me quite a bit. So let's see here, making sure down here that I got them all. So I have all of these M's that are here, which is good. So I'm just going to close this. Okay, and then I can go through and look at some of these. So yeah, it got rid of some of this, but is that stuff that I want? This actually would be. Let me see over here. Yeah, see, it got rid of some of this, so I may have to do something with the threshold. Let me go to the next one, and let me see what it did here. Yeah, it's getting rid of some of this stuff, so it's leaving little holes. So I could go back and try this again. I can also manually adjust this, and I can color stuff back in. So anything that I think is canceled and I want back in, like this stuff down here, I can definitely do that. But you know what? I'm just going to go with what I have now, and I'm going to close this, and I'm going to refresh this list. I'm going to refresh like that, and it says, hey, where should I look for this stuff? Well, it's in this folder here. So let me go back. Let me make sure that I've got the right spot. I'm actually doing the Anthropology skull photos. I want you to look in this folder, and yeah, that's fine, all good. And let's go next. Okay, so now it tells me the camera, and it has some of the settings, and I'm just going to go next. General default. I'm just going to use the general settings. I'm going to hit run, and I'm going to let this cook. And once it's all done, then I'll come back and we'll have a look at the sparse point cloud, and we'll see if it was able to reconstruct everything, if all the cameras were able to be reconstructed, all the positions, or if we're losing some of the camera positions. It may kick out one or two. Hopefully we'll have enough that we'll be able to get a good model without any holes. Okay, so we'll be right back in a second. All right, so that took a few minutes, and I'm just going to scroll down here. Oh, I've got one image that it didn't take, and that could be one that was out of focus. I did notice that there were some that didn't take here, but it looks like all of them except for one got kicked out. So sometimes I'm interested to go see why, what the photo was. So it's right here. Okay, so this, and I can see, so while it was focusing, it's not focused. I can see this is already blurred. So very logical reason why something like that doesn't work, but one of the group should be fine. It's not going to be a big deal. So I'm just going to leave it there. And I'm going to look at my model here, which you can see. So the first thing I look at on this kind of thing is the sparse point cloud. So if you have a very thorough and sort of lot of points on the skull or on your object, this is a good sign that this is going to reconstruct properly. And you'll see that if you look at my camera positions here, right, they're all the way around. And that's because we kind of faked it out into thinking that the camera was moving around the object and not the other way around. Now you can see the model is not oriented in any specific way. It's kind of just floating in space there. So I can't adjust this right now, and maybe I will. Maybe I'll just do a little bit of a tweak here just to kind of get it a little bit better, like that. Tilt it up like this, and then I'll rotate it around. And yeah, let me go apply, and then I can tweak it a little bit better like that. Okay, so something like that is better. And I'll even drop it down a bit, but not too much, just like that. Okay, good enough for now. And I'm just going to hit OK. So we need to move to the second part of this reconstruction, which is going to be the dense reconstruction. We got to get a nice dense point cloud out of this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Workflow, Advanced, Dense Point Cloud Generation. Next, and again, I'm just going to use the defaults, and I'm going to go next, and I'm going to go run. And we're going to let this cook for a few minutes, and when it is done, I'm going to come back and I'll show you what kind of results we got. Okay, we're back again, and it says stereo processing has been completed with success. So I'm just going to finish on that one, and now you'll see that, okay, we've got a pretty good looking point cloud here. Not bad. Now, this is where, you know, we could have taken a little bit more care, some more photos and that sort of thing in order to fill in some of these other areas. Okay, so whenever you're doing a model like this, you have to really pay attention to these undercuts and these other areas. Now, it was actually filtering out in the mask some of these areas, which is fine. I think for what I'm doing today, it's really going to get the point across. But for example, here, we have a nice clean opening here, okay, and that's really what we're looking for. If we, you know, if you just take photos like this from one direction all the way around, you're not going to capture, okay, this particular opening here. And so this is one of the reasons why I take so many photos to do a model properly, especially when it's a complex model with a lot of undercuts. So what we're going to do is I'm going to continue on here, and I'm going to do the mesh extraction. Again, just using the default settings, general default, go next. And that will clear up all those millions and millions of points that I have and produce a decent looking mesh. And then after that, we're going to be doing the texture, and we're going to see what it looks like. So I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so the mesh is done. I'm going to hit finish here, and let's have a look. Okay, yeah, that's looking quite sweet. And considering that we haven't even applied the textures yet, that's a pretty good start. Now, I will say also that there are things that we can do with the images, and I've had videos, other past Click3D videos with Barry Bassinet talking about HDR imaging and, you know, making sure that you really get good quality images up front. So I could have done more. You can always do more and really get into it and, you know, really get the best photographs possible, right? So what I'm going to do at this point is do a textured mesh. So I'm just going to go create a textured mesh. I'm not going to scale it in this particular project. This is just a demonstration of, you know, how you might tackle something like this, like a skull or whatever. I'm just going to choose a default single texture. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and run it, and just like before, pause it here, and then I'll come back once it's done. And the texture mesh is done, so I'm going to hit finish here, and now we can see this is the final model. I am going to let me shut off the cameras here in the background, but as you can see, it's not looking too bad at all. Now, if we want to critique this, you can see there's some spots inside here that could have been improved. I think some of this was from the masks. I just chose automatic masks, and if I adjusted the thresholds, I think that would be better. Also, the colors, they are a little bit washed out. It looks like it was kind of little funny, so I think we could have done a little better there as well. Yeah, maybe a couple of other minor things that I think we could potentially fix, but not too bad. I mean, not too bad at all. You can see these little, and I guess I should point this out. I've got the model upside down, but these little things here, things like little thin objects that stick out and stuff, these can often be really tricky if you don't photograph them enough. But in this case, it looks like that they've reconstructed fairly well. So that's it for the forensic anthropology Click3D video here on trying to do a skull. So don't forget, having a really good setup
stable tripod, adjusting your camera settings, having a small little turntable that you can move around, moving the skull or the object, whatever it is, on its side and then upside down will help you a lot by just rotating in small increments and then processing them. So that's it, folks. Thanks a lot, and we'll catch you next time on Click 3D. Bye-bye.